Yo, we got it
What's
worked
happening,
out.
man? Got it to work.
Yes.
Indeed.
How's the pool party going?
It's good, man. The kids are raging. The weather's it's not as brutal as it's been. It's been like 100-degree awfulness here. So it's actually a decent day. So I can't complain.
Yeah, no, same here. Like we're probably in the mid 80s and I'm
Oh
happy that we're
yeah.
there, you
It's
know what I
funny how
mean?
that's like beautiful again after like the 90 plus and.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your night to come hang out with me.
Heck yeah, man. No worries, man. Thanks for doing the interview. I'm stoked to talk some metal.
Hell yeah. Whoa. What are you drinking?
A very unmetal seltzer.
Oh, hey, whatever.
bomb bomb pop flavored. It doesn't get much less metal than bomb pop flavored seltzer.
I don't know, it reminds you of being a kid, right?
Exactly. So
Rock and roll. So Brian, the question that's on everyone's mind, I'm gonna just throw it right out there up front. Where are you guys at with recording the Shads?
yeah, man. New music is moving forward at a very nice and steady and well thought out pace. We've probably got instrumentally, I'd say 6 to 7 songs that are like there. And I recorded vocals last about a week and a half ago with Zeus, and we got about 2 songs done while I was out there. I flew out to Boston for an Overcast show with Unearthed to celebrate their 20th anniversary of the oncoming storm. So while I was flying out, I was like, man, I got to at least hit the studio. And we raged through a couple songs. It's in it. The two we did, there's some melodic moments, but it's probably some of the most brutal stuff we've done since I don't know, man. Maybe even like the Of One Blood days. Like there's even some like black metal influence riffs. There's some like straight up just chromatic death metal stuff. It's pretty brutal. I even brought some like witchy kind of screams to the party. So we're pretty stoked, man. And I don't know release wise. I think we're gonna kind of do it in chunks, which is great. Like the new way of being able to release music. Instead, if we had to make a 10-song album traditional way, it would take us we wouldn't be looking until like mid next year. But now I think we'll
Right.
be able to get music out before the end of this year for sure. Even if it's just like an EP's worth of like songs, like 3 or 4 or something. So,
Yeah,
but it is moving along nicely, man. We couldn't be more excited.
that's super awesome. I know a lot of people are, really excited to hear some new Shadows Fall. Uh, Obviously, it's been 12 years at this point.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while. So yeah, we're very excited that it's actually to get like 2 rough mixes with vocals and everything, and even like backup vocals. Matt was laying down, harmonies and death metal stuff, and to get a not finished but like fully realized couple of songs, kind of lit that fire. We're like, all right, this is happening, like,
Yeah.
and man, and we're very stoked on what it is. It's everything we've always done with even a little bit of extra spice on it. So I'm pretty stoked. And it's nice not having like kind of record label deadlines or agendas. There's no rushing. There's no business plan in place. We're just writing the sickest songs we can write that we want to hear at our own pace. So it doesn't
Yeah.
get much better than that.
No, that's a great spot to be in, I think, for any artist, right? Because it's like
So
it's the first album all over again. There is no pressure. You can just do whatever you're gonna do.
exactly, it's that classic music trope of you first album you had all the time in the world to write it, whereas your second one they're like, yeah, we need that turned in the next 12 months. Go,
Yeah. You're like, oh
so we've
shit.
had a lot of time. But also, I've got 2 riff masters between, John, just that dude, every time he turns around, there's another sick riff. Like, it's just crazy. So, having that, and also, he, with Anthrax, he gets to record his solos and write all that stuff, but Charlie and Scott write all the riffs. So he's, just been sitting on this stuff. So he was ready to unleash it on the world. And now it's time. It's finally time.
Hell yeah. So how does it feel for you, after so long, like you guys getting back together, obviously 2.5-ish years ago, and now you're playing pretty regularly, I think, it seems.
Yeah, it ramped up. It ramped up pretty quick. Where we didn't really know where things were going to go after that first kind of reunion show. we knew like we had been talking about playing together for like again for a little while. Because when we stopped touring, it wasn't because we didn't want to like play with each other, that we didn't want to make music. We just life was just in the way, man. You know, like I had my second kid, Paula just had a kid, John had the opportunity of a lifetime to be in the big four. So just things
Yeah.
were happening. And honestly, for us, just business wise, it was hard to make a full time living off of the band at that time. So we had to make some tough decisions, and it just made sense to kind of step away from the road and take some, just take five and reevaluate and kind of get re-energized. We were physically, I was as burnt as you could possibly be. It had been like 2 decades on the road of just hard living, hard partying and screaming my ass off every night. I needed to just kind of give my neck a break, give my throat a break. And to come back out and see the response at the first show was just so overwhelming. But then when we started getting, offers for festivals and some fun one-off shows here and there, we just couldn't say no. And it's definitely a dance to get everyone's schedules to work together, like
Yeah.
between Jason playing an Overkill and John and Anthrax and me having to fit it in between soccer tournaments and, for the kids and all that stuff. And having a full-time job, it's been a challenge, but worth it, and it's also made us prioritize the right shows, like try to play some festivals where you can play in front of a lot of people at one time in different areas, as well as picking and choosing headlining shows where we get to do something fun, like the 25th anniversary of 20th anniversary of War Within, things like that.
Yeah.
That makes it, makes it at least makes sense. So we're not just out there just killing ourselves and going crazy, but we're picking and choosing and doing it right. So
Well, that's the important thing when everyone's so busy, obviously, from with Jason Overkill category 7, and I feel like he's got 12 other things in
yeah,
the
if
fire.
it was up to him, he'd be in 50 bands, like for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. He's like,
And man, that category 7 stuff, I wasn't ready for that. On the ride from the Jersey show, he played me that album. I was like, holy shit! Like you got John Bush to come in and just kill it on this thing.
dude, what a great vocalist Bush is too,
Oh,
right?
he's amazing, man. Amazing. And I've always kind of, for my melodic vocals, I've always come from that approach of they got to have like some toughness and some intensity, that sort of Chuck Billy, John Bush type of stuff. So I was, and also happy to see John playing some shreddy, like crazy metal again was cool,
Yeah.
Because man, Bill and Mike Orlando are going nuts on that record. They're just shredding all over the place. So it's cool. Cool
That's
stuff.
that's really awesome. What I've heard of it's fucking fantastic, and I can't wait to hear it all,
Yeah, you will be stoked. So
Right on. So did you get into another band?
I've been in too many bands. Right now, uh, between Shadows Fall, then Overcast has kind of been doing some stuff. A band called Downpour that I started with Derek Kurzweil, who used to be in Unearthed for a while, and a couple of other local mass metal dudes. Matt, who's actually in Liverage with John and from Shadows Fall. We started a band probably had to be like 2014. And we took us forever to finally get some songs out, and then it's taken us another like 5 or 6 years to get the next batch out. So that's cooking. And then I also have Hell Night here in St. Louis, which is way more of a kind of punk rock meets like, I don't know, Deep Purple, like with like if it was played by Motorhead type stuff. So
Right
I
on.
can never stop like just jamming. I'm always got something going on. Whether it's full time or just for fun, there's always something going on. So
Yeah, I think that's a funny thing with musicians is like when you get that bug early on to be creative, it doesn't stop. You just
yeah,
I just
it
gotta
becomes
keep.
part of who you are, man. It's like I always joke with my wife. I'm like, trust me, like everyone will be a lot happier if I have a chance to go and scream into a microphone instead of at you guys. Trust me, it's better for everybody.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Have
It's like
that.
I've been doing this since I was 14 years old, and if I don't get that release, like everyone's gonna notice.
Yeah. So when you guys played that show December of 21, what was going through your mind, like the build up to it?
It was pretty. I don't want to say nerve wracking, but we wanted to come out and play better than we ever had, be more ready than we ever had. Shadows Fall was not known for our rehearsal commitment, I guess would be the word, because we toured so much. We're always like, I mean, we know these songs, you know, like, and so practices would be like us getting together, running through a few things, working on some new stuff, and then just like drinking at Matt's house, you know. And so for this though, we like buckled down. Not only did those guys instrumentally rehearse like nonstop, physically we were all like trying to get back in shape and, you know, be ready for the stage, because that's the one thing you kind of can't recreate in the practice space is that adrenaline and that energy. And we didn't want to get out there and after 2 songs be like hunched over, you know, like looking for the oxygen tank, you know. So I myself personally, that kind of began my more intense fitness journey that I'm still on now, where I started really focusing on cardio and just getting kind of back into shape. You know, as you get older, it's before I didn't have to work at it. Now you got to work for that shit, you know. So rolling into it, I wasn't nervous about us being ready. I was nervous just about like, man, like I don't want to get sick right before it. I don't want to like, you know, have something just weird go wrong where all of a sudden your throat's shot and you just can't do what you want to do. We knew the crowd was going to be crazy, and it couldn't have worked out better. Like it couldn't have been a better show. Everyone's families were there. Our kids were on the side of the stage. My parents were at the soundboard. The audience itself we recognized so many faces, between people locally as well as people who traveled, we'd known for years. It was such a overwhelming, like just joyous occasion, man. It went as well as it could. And looking back on it and seeing videos, we're like, man, we were a well-oiled machine for that show. And we realized like maybe we should have been practicing all those years. You know, when we practice, we're pretty damn good.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. You're like, you know, if you actually work at this, you get better at it.
Yeah. You guys absolutely crushed that night. That was me and 2 buddies of mine took a trip. We flew out of Kentucky, flew up for it, and man.
Oh, awesome, man. Well, thanks for traveling all the way out for that. That was the other thing that made it so special, is so many people we talked to had stories like that where they're like, oh, me and my friend hadn't seen you since, you know, Mayhem in 2010, and we just didn't want to miss this. We flew out from wherever. It's like that. As a band, there's nothing cooler and more inspiring than that, because your music, stuff that you had to express, actually connected and meant something to other people from all over the world. And that's, as a musician, I don't think there's any better reward or feeling than that, you know?
Right. Well, and the relationships that it creates among the fans, you know, is like it music to me is like the ultimate connector to people. You know, if you guys are on the same level with music, they're going to be some of your best friends, and you're going to get the opportunity to do shit where it's like, oh, Shadows Falls, we're uniting. Let's take a weekend.
We got to get there. We got to go road trip, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes it'll be very introverted people who normally in social things aren't out there getting out and about, but the music brings them all together. And then you have your own tribe, you know, you have your own world that really unites so many people. And I've seen that. That's what got me into kind of underground music. I was really young when I started going to Boston hardcore shows. And when I saw that scene after going to arena shows for years as well, I saw this small scene and was like, whoa, I didn't know this was even possible. Like that you could just have this many people in a small room who were there for the same reasons, who became instant friends just because you had a t-shirt of a band that you didn't think anyone else knew about. It blows your mind. It's such a cool.
Oh, I think I lost you.
And that feeling still is the same. I'll be in the grocery store and see someone with like a Dismember shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Like we need to talk, you know?
Yeah, all the time, literally. Like, I can't tell you how many people, just because like I'm wearing a shirt or they're wearing a shirt, it's like, oh, you know, my wife.
It's like that Step Brothers. Are we best friends? You know, they're like, did we just become best friends?
Well, my wife early on, when we first started dating, you know, she had a trauma, whatever other shit. She always thought like, oh, you're going to go to a show, you're going to talk to a girl. And like, I'm there for the band. So she goes to a show with me and she's like, you're not talking to me. I'm like, I'm here for the band.
I'm immersed in the moment.
Like, yes, I love you, but
Yeah,
this,
yeah. But Opeth is playing or something,
yeah,
you know, like it's like
yeah,
this is
whatever.
happening.
She goes, so it took her a couple of shows, and eventually she's like, oh, like I was so worried you were going to talk to girls, and you don't give a shit about girls at shows. Like, no, I
No.
really don't. I just want to watch the
Well, and she
band.
probably also realized that metal shows the population is much more skewed male anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a sausage fest, right? Yeah.
More dudes in black long sleeve shirts than girls for sure.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
welcome all the ladies. Come on down. Come to the show.
Right. Come to the show, have a good time. You will be protected.
Exactly.
Uh so for you, like I know you were in you were playing in Overcast since like 91-ish.
Yeah, 1990, 91 is when we kind of started. Yeah. Yep.
How do you guys have plans for new music at this point? Or are you just playing out like once in a
I
while?
don't think we'll ever write new Overcast. We talked about it and even kind of maybe kicked some riffs around, but that was such a different time. I mean, we were 14, 15-year-old kids. Mike D was the only one with a driver's license when that band started. And we wrote such manic, weird songs, and that I even like trying to sing the like we just had we played a show a little while ago and we did the full first album, and the amount of syllables I would put in and the crazy vocal lines, I'm like, what were we thinking? So to get in that headspace is almost impossible. The closest thing is when we did Death Ray Vision was like a modernized approach to that, but it did not sound like Overcast. We're like, we can't call it Overcast.
Right.
Um, but so I don't think there'll ever be new Overcast music. But it's fun to get together with those guys and play shows. We like literally some of my best friends since I was in middle school are in that band, so and it brings out all our friends from that era, and it's a blast. Like that show with Unearth and All Out War and Bleeding Through is so much fun because like so many of us have been in that scene for so long, and to see us all still out there like kind of going through it is crazy. But yeah, it's just insane that people care about songs we wrote 30 plus years ago is pretty amazing as well, that it still resonates. But as far as new ones, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if we could do it. And also it's tuned to E standard. No one plays an E standard anymore. Like,
No.
so we kept it heavy in E.
Yeah. Well, back then that was almost everyone, right? Like you,
Exactly. Exactly. Everyone was, now it's like it's so unheard of now. It's like, oh man, you can still be heavy in E. Trust me.
yeah. Well, and that was, that was also the days of tape trading, right? Like you you're like, oh, I sent a tape to this dude out in, Thailand or wherever it was, and you're gonna get something crazy back. And you're like, yes,
Yeah. So
wait.
crazy. And that's one of those things. It had to be seeked out, like whether it was going to a small record store and buying 7 inches that you didn't know the band, but you could tell by the cover that they were a hardcore band, or seeing a death metal album you never heard of, but you're like, that's definitely a death metal band, and just taking a chance. Now it's cool that kids are exposed to so much music at once, but it does take out some of that, like, seeking it out and stumbling into things, or like just having that cool neighbor who turns you on to bands. Now, if you like a band, it'll just suggest 2,000 more bands that you
Yeah,
should get into, which is great. And it's great for bands to get discovered, but it does take some of that like treasure hunt out of it.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely not like when we were growing up, when you'd go to a record store and you'd be like, oh man, that artwork is so cool. I hope it's good, you know?
Yeah, totally. And you're gonna buy it though. You're gonna take the chance. And every now
Yep.
and then you get screwed. There's those classic ones where like people would buy a Molly Hatchet record because there's a dude with like a giant axe, a flaming motorcycle, and then you put it on, you're like, oh, this is not thrash metal.
Yeah. This is not what I thought it was.
Yeah,
I I did that with a Molly Hatchet record, as a matter of fact. I was like, shit.
there you go.
Like,
I think Bad
whatever.
Out of Hell by Meatloaf was probably the biggest one of those. You're like, it's called Bad Out of Hell. This looks insane. You're like, nah, dude.
No, no, not at all. But that was, those were the days, right? Because it was a little bit of like, I really want to find something cool, and okay, I bought it. Please let it be really fucking cool, or I'm gonna be like
Yep.
just just out, but
Well,
even
it's not
those,
because it's not like it's on Spotify where you're just like, oh, I'll just ignore this. You're like, no, I had to put down like $15 to buy
yeah,
this, you know?
yeah, but then, you also turn around and go, hey, listen, I didn't like this. Why don't you take it and go dig on it? So it really kept all of the interest in all sorts of music, I think, for a lot of people.
Indeed, indeed.
So what about you? Like, what bands are you currently listening to that aren't really, or that you think people should be listening to?
Uh, let's see. They're not super unknown these days, but this band High Viz, I've been really into. They're kind of like hardcore kids who are playing almost like a Brit pop influence type of thing, but the shows live have way more like of a hardcore show feel. Like the first record, a lot of the riffs sound like they could be Cro-Mags riffs, but they're played with a guitar tone that's really clean and drums that are, a little more simplified. And those guys just are killing it. So I've been really into them. This band Upon Stone are kind of bringing back what I think of when I think of melodic death, like mellow death, like melodic death, however you say it.
Mhm.
Like that early, Gothenburg sound. They've kind of brought that back, but with like a little more punch. And I've been really into that band. Got to do a quick guest vocal on their record and was digging that. Gate Creeper hits me in all the warm and fuzzy death metal spots because they just have that obituary guitar tone, bolt thrower riffs, like just all the stuff that I grew up on. But again, putting their own twist on it. So it
Yeah.
doesn't just sound like, rehashed version of that. So there's the three that kind of stand out. Besides that, though, me personally, dude, I'm probably just listening to a Grateful Dead show these days.
Okay. That's
So
a
total
that is
deadhead. So yeah, and yeah.
way out of left field.
Oh no, I when I was growing up, I not only was going to hardcore shows in Boston at the channel on the weekends, I was also going to see the Dead and Fish and partying in the parking lot and hanging out with those crew. And still don't hit as many Dead and Company shows these days, but I still hit Fish shows and like that whole scene. Like the musicianship level is what always drew me to that because I was always into kind of more progressive death metal and like even like a lot of jazz fusion, and they brought a lot of that into the jam band world. And just everyone thinks of them as like mellower music, but man, especially Fish, they would get dark and mean. And when you get a arena full of people on high grade psychedelics and you start just doing like total deconstructed noise jams like with like loops and just weird shit, like that's more evil than just dropping like a heavy riff, like
Yeah,
you're literally scrambling people's brains.
yeah, I bet, dude. I can only imagine. I never
Yeah.
really got into Fish or the Grateful Dead or anything, but I think Dead and Company doing a show at the Sphere in Vegas would be a really fucking cool
Yeah,
experience.
some of my friends were at the Fish. They did 4 nights, and they're like, yeah, like literally, they're like, we're not the same people after walking out of that building. Like things have changed. We've seen things. So that venue looks incredible, man. So,
Yeah, we were there. They were still building it, and like, what were we doing? Oh, we were going out to LA to see Mr. Bungle. And our fl
awesome.
our flight in Vegas was like, okay, it's not going the rest of the way. So we got a car and drove by the Sphere, and I was like, man, that looks cool as fuck.
Yeah, and the video footage was just insane. I webcast some of the Fish shows, and even on my TV, the graphics looked so crazy that you thought they were like moving out of the TV. So I can't imagine being in that building immersed in that, probably on some way too much, LSD, just losing your mind. So,
Yeah, probably a lot of that going on
oh, there was a lot of that going
for
on.
sure. Yeah, it looked like a good time though.
Indeed.
So Shadows Fall just announced you guys are going to do another Palladium show December 21st.
Yes, yes, very excited. And this is going to be a War Within anniversary show. So we will be playing the album in full. We'll be doing other songs as well, but like in the middle of the set, we'll do a straight run through that. We did mix up the track listing mostly due to tuning issues. We have like two different tunings,
Mhm.
but instead of having to change guitars every song, we mixed up the track listing a little bit. but playing all those tunes, especially some deeper cuts like Ghost of Past Failure and Eternity is Within and Those Who Cannot Speak were super fun, because you know how it gets, like when you're on tour, you kind of get stuck in a set list for a while, and some songs just sort of fall out of the rotation. And as I mentioned before, we didn't practice a ton, so us relearning an old song was usually not on the agenda. So it's been awesome to kind of dust some of those off and play that whole record. And the Palladium is our home away from home. Like that place was always so good to us when we first started. We opened so many sick metal shows, like always got such great opportunities to get in front of people that it just, yeah, it feels like a insane high school reunion every time we're like in that building.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's always nice to have that uh comfortable feeling, you get into the venue and everyone's like, "Hey, ain't seen you in a minute." You're like, "Hey, yeah, what's up?"
And our families have kind of free run of the place. They just get to rage around. The kids are running around everywhere and like having a blast. So really looking forward to that. Now going to Massachusetts in the winter is not always the best of times, but everyone will be home for the holidays, so it's a perfect way to kind of get everyone together and just have a sick show. I was still working on the lineup for the rest of the show, but we're gonna have some killer bands with us that I can't quite announce yet, but it's gonna be a sick lineup. But really looking forward to doing the War Within set and also busting out probably a few other random kind of cuts songs we haven't played in a while. So we want to make it a really special show. So
That's
and
cool.
we may do one or two more of those type of things in the future, but that's right now that's the big one. We've got a few other festivals lined up, but that's our big headlining show that's locked in for the year. So
Yeah, that'll be a really good show. Now, are you guys going to do the Shadows Fall beer again?
I hope so. We've actually been talking to Tin Bridge again to see if we could maybe do a different style, or just bring back that original brew. I love that one. It's funny. I'm more of a diverse beer drinker than some of the guys in the band. If it's up to them, they're just drinking Coors Light and and whatever. So like we had to make something that was at least sort of lager-ish, like a little
Yeah.
bit on the more drinkable side. Whereas I would have probably gone all in with some insanity. So I'm sure it'll be something more along those lines because I didn't want to make a beer that 2/3 of the band wouldn't drink.
Right.
So, but yeah, I hope we bring that back. That was fun to have, and also just nothing cooler than having your own like can of your own beer.
Yeah, no shit. It's like, "Mom, I really made it now. I got my own beer." Oh, is there a band that you've played with that for you was like, "Man, I never thought we would be at this level and we're fucking playing with these guys"?
We've been lucky where we played with almost every like long shot dream band. We played with Metallica, we played with Slayer, but the tour that we did 2005 Ozfest where it was Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden like co-headlining, it doesn't get any better than that. It's
No.
impossible. The only thing that would have made it bigger is a Metallica headlined over that was to see Maiden every night, and those guys would come and hang out in the dressing room, and I'm like, Nickel McBrain is sitting on our beer cooler. Like, this is crazy. Like, I cannot believe this is happening. And turning around during our set and seeing like Geezer Butler like watching us play, I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is insane. So that was a huge high point for sure. So
That's
and
freaking
because the other
awesome.
thing is, it wasn't a festival. Like some of these big festivals, you get to play with so many huge bands, but it's 6 stages and everyone's all over the place. That was a straight tour where we got to know some of those guys and got to play with them every night, and became friends with their crew and really got to like watch them and kind of learn from them and see how that entity like ran, and picking definitely stealing things like, did you see, you're like, oh, that's the best way to handle that. That's these guys have got it all figured out, like, so things like that was definitely the peak of that. So
Yeah, it's got to make you feel good when these
oh
icon
wait, we got the dogs yelling at us now.
it's got to make you feel good when these, iconic artists are like watching you and chatting with you and you're like, "Fuck."
There's no cooler feeling, and it can be really stop you in your tracks, like on part of that, I remember Velvet Revolver came out, and I'm literally just rocking out like normal. Go to grab my water, and Slash is just like, "What's up, man?" And you're like, "What the fuck? Just what?" Like Slash, like like that's as cool as it gets, and it never gets old. It's one of those things like I came from a very small hardcore scene where there wasn't a lot of separation between bands and audience. But I also grew up going to arena shows, and like when a rock star is a rock star, man, you feel it. Like you like
Yeah.
like you see a certain dude, like Ozzy's, walking through catering. You're like, holy shit, it's Ozzy. Like, and it doesn't matter how many days in a row it happens. Every time you're like, it's Ozzy. Like, oh my god, he's right there. He's getting Jello. Like that's crazy.
Skin Jello, is it laced with cocaine? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. That is one of the funny things about like when you tour with some of those older bands now, you're like, yeah, the party's like over. Like we miss those days, like
Yeah.
it probably would have been a lot more fun in the late 70s, but it's still just mind blowing that our music got us to a point where we're literally playing with some of the most legendary people of not just metal history, of music history. It's crazy. So
Yeah, for sure. So do you feel like Shadows Fall now has got a popularity more than before?
I don't know about we maybe at our peak time, maybe not, but like our definitely we're seeing the resurgence of that kind of like new wave of American heavy metal like sound, that kind of like melodic metalcore stuff. It seems like it's coming back around, and I've seen that with a lot of genres. Like new metal's had a full resurgence,
Yeah.
and then so there's a lot of interest, and some of it I equate with like the other people who are our age, who are our fans, are like, you know what, man, I want to like recapture some of that like energy. I want to enjoy that music again. And they can also do things where they're like, hey, we can go on a Lamb of God headbangers boat cruise. Like we can afford to do that now. We have disposable income.
Yeah.
So I think our fan base is like, yeah, man, we'll travel out to see you guys at the Palladium, or we'll go on the boat, or we'll go to these festivals. So we've definitely seen a huge uptick, because honestly, towards the end of our touring days, it was not like we knew we could have kept going and at a certain level, but we would have been like just keeping the boat afloat. So I think going away for a little while, having people get excited about it again, and now coming out with new music, I think has added a little, jolt of energy into that. And man, people have been just so supportive of us coming out and playing again. To have that energy come back to you, like, it was super inspiring, because at first we're kind of like, I guess no one cares, we'll just let's go home. Now people are like, no, we wanted you to come, we just so now we're back. So
Yeah, well, and I think, a lot of those people that were listening, 14, 15 years ago, now they've got kids that are at the point where they're like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to take you to a show. We're going to go have a good time."
totally, like turning their kids onto their music, and then like seeing them respond to it. And then what's funny is I guarantee if those kids get into metal, then they're going to turn their parents on to newer metal bands that they wouldn't have heard about. So it's the cycle of life.
Yeah, it's a fucking beautiful thing. I mean, I love it. I love taking my kids. Really, it's only my daughter that goes, but she's 17 now. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Taking her,
where does the time go?
absolutely. And some of my favorite memories with her are going to shows. Like you mentioned Slash. We let the kids pick our 2017 summer vacation, and we fucking drove up to Minneapolis to see Guns N' Roses and Deftones in Viking Stadium.
Oh, that's a hell of a family vacay. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I think so. I
Yep.
think people are you know our age are getting to that point where the kids can actually go to the shows and enjoy it, and they're not to
Totally. Like that's been such a fun thing. And what's great is I've also not like my son Judah. He's pretty into metal, but he's also gone his own direction with it, where he's like OG power metal guy now. And I don't know how it happened, but he's all about Accept and Manowar and like Annihilator. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, like I always dug those bands, but I wasn't like listening to them. He found them on his own and went all in, you know, and I'm like, holy shit, like when did you become like a German power metal guy? This is crazy, you know.
That's
But it's, you know, he just was into listening to what I was listening to, was like, oh, kind of got into the vibe of it, but then found his own vibe, you know, like it was like, oh man, I like stuff like this. So it's cool. Although I've spoiled my kids where they think every show they're gonna be backstage, you
yeah.
know, where I'm like, sometimes we'll go to a regular show. I'm like, no, no, we're going through the front door. We had to buy tickets, you know. We can't, no, you can't go on the side of the stage, you know, because their first few shows they were just like, oh, this is how life works, you know, like
Yeah.
we got a VIP all access laminate. And I'm like, nah, it's not always like that.
Not always. It would be nice, but it's not. So with
Exactly.
him, with Judah being into power metal, there's a couple of bands you should check out with him. One is called Finality. Uh, Tony Asta,
Finality. Awesome.
yeah, Tony Asta from Battlecross, uh, sings in that band.
Oh, Battlecross dudes rule, man. They're the best. So, oh, he's
Yeah,
doing some power metal stuff. I'll have to
yep,
check that out for sure.
yeah, fucking
Awesome.
love
I'm
that
on that.
band. The other one is Idle Throne. They're from up around like Gas City or like Northwest Indiana.
Sick. Awesome, man. I'll have to check those out. So that's
Yeah,
killer.
both
Yeah,
really,
man.
really good
If it was
fucking
up to him,
bands.
he'd just be wielding a sword and like fighting the enemies of metal. Like he's all about
Fuck yeah. That
it.
buy him a fucking new sword. Get him a good 4 footer.
What's funny is my wife bought him a spear at like some like, you know, fair the other day, and I'm like, really? I'm not the one who bought him the spear like you did, you know? Like,
That's fucking cool as shit. And it's, I think as a parent, it's really great to see kids form their own identity and start going their own path. You're like, oh shit, yeah.
100%. Yeah, because you know, I wanted to turn them on to stuff that I dig, but I'm not gonna force feed it if they don't, you know, like my daughter would be like, oh, it's cool, but she's found her own stuff. Whereas Judah got into metal, but like I said, then he went his own direction. I'm like, that's even cooler. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, huh. So
Yeah, a lot
yeah,
of love.
but you know, whatever they're into, that's the thing is my parents were never into my music, but they supported me from day one and were very into the idea of music. They just loved that I was like that excited about it. And my dad would drive Overcast to some of our first shows because, like I said, Mike was the only one with a license. And they to this day they still come out to any show we play in Massachusetts, and you know are always there. So it's cool. But so I will always, so whatever direction they want to go, I'll be supporting. Granted, you know, I'll keep trying to influence them with my own music, but you know,
Well, you got
then
to,
it's up to
right?
them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my proudest dad moments is I come around the corner in the morning before school. Judah has Halloween I Want Out on the TV, the video, and he's holding his hand up doing the long scream at the end, like, you know, and just holding it. And, yeah, like forming the orb in his hand. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've done everything right as a parent.
Yeah. That's so mine was I love like traditional metal. And we're driving through Illinois one night, and my daughter, she was, God, Bailey was probably, I don't know, she had to be 10 or 11 at that point. We're driving through Illinois and she goes, "You know what my favorite band is? Night Demon." Like, that's cool. Like, I really dig those guys. And the next thing she goes, "You know what my favorite song is?" And my wife goes, "What?" She goes, "Satan." My wife goes, "Oh my God, don't ever tell your grandmother."
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
it's
like,
so awesome.
yeah, you know?
Totally. That's one thing I kind of have to remember sometimes too, because like I'll look over and Judah's wearing, you know, like a shirt from like he'll take one of my t-shirts and I'm like, yeah, the back of that is probably not okay for second grade, you know, like elementary school gear. Like, you know, it's a cool shirt. I was like, yeah, you can wear it whenever you want, just probably not to school. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, impaled Nazarene is not going to go over well with your teachers.
No, no, and I don't want to call today. Like, we got things going
Yeah,
on.
exactly. I don't want to explain it. It's just too much. Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Brian, I know you're at a pool party. I don't want to keep you all night. I greatly appreciate your time. I love that you took some time out to come chat with little old me tonight.
Oh, dude, it's been my pleasure, man. Thank you for helping to spread the word about Shadows Fall being back. It was a great conversation, man. And much love to you and your family. And hopefully we'll see you at a show sometime down the road.
Absolutely, dude. Have a great night.
Indeed, man. Take care.
See ya.